have a official office again. So that's why you guys see me better visual, right? Got the light on me. What'd you say, Tyler? You're muted.
Yeah, I muted myself when I went to talk. I was gonna say, yeah, good lighting. You can see your chin.
Right. What's going on, everyone? Thanks again for tuning in to Real Talk by Our Stories, Your Legacy. We're back again with another fire round that is, again, during the pandemic. We started this during the Rona series, many years. I was going to say many years ago. Seems like it, many months. It's been about a year and a half, almost getting close to 2 years. We're already hitting summertime of 2021. And, we're pretty much kind of in the pandemic, and we started this podcast discussing kind of like our day in the life of us living through this pandemic. And, we're not going to get into the weeds or the rabbit hole of things, but, however our listeners and however we view the pandemic, whether it's political or whether it's, because biological, because of the nature of the virus, doesn't really matter. Overall, we are still pretty much in the pandemic, however we see it. And so, so in today's episode, we're going to talk about summertime, right? Summertime is upon us, especially here in the US of A. We're experiencing reopenings everywhere, right? And we're out here trying to enjoy the sun with friends and family again for the first time in a long time. During this pandemic, we're looking forward towards a new future with hopefully less anxiety and less panic towards the virus that just happened upon us, since the year 2020. So with all the positive news, however, comes a new threat of this Delta variant of the coronavirus. And again, put it out there, we're no experts. We're just a couple of brothers getting together to discuss our lives and how we're trying to stay sane through all this, right? So at face level, we're very much still in the pandemic. So this episode is just us trying to figure out how we're dealing with this updated news. So in this episode, we're going to talk a little bit about our summertime plans, our expectations of the moment, especially with news looking pretty positive currently, right? And then lastly, we'll end it with this lurking news of this new variant of the virus that can possibly make our vaccines for those who already have it, not as effective towards it, or there's other news. Like I said, we're not experts, and so we're hearing other news that, our vaccines are good against it, blah, blah, blah. With this news, though, whether it impacts us, impacts our health, or impacts the politics around us, how are we feeling towards this news, especially with how we're thinking about our summertime plans? So as always, before we jump into it, we're going to do a quick check-in around the room and see who is with us today. And so I am going to start with my brother Zavon. How are you today, man?
I'm all right, man. Yeah, just hanging on to the same shit every day, as always, but just hanging there.
Yeah, man, I feel you. It's, as our listeners know, we always like to record this at the beginning of the week. So at least for me, it was having a tough case of the Mondays. I'm looking forward to a long nap before actually going to bed. But I feel you on that, man. Throwing the mic over to Tyler. How's it going with you, man? How are you today?
Doing well. I lost my train of thought. But no, it's been a long, kind of a long day, only because I've been off work for, about a week and a half. So first day back from a vacation, always kind of get slammed with random stuff. So just been doing that today and trying to take it easy. But, feel like I've been go, even when I was on vacation, just always doing something. So try to take mostly easy today. So, yeah.
Cool. Well, it's always great to have both of you on. So let's jump right into it. So just kind of like as I was mentioning in earlier in this episode, right? So here's the first question, and I'm open up to both of y'all to just jump right in. So with positive news of reopening and vaccine effectiveness, how are you feeling overall about your summertime plans? Especially like hearing all these positive news of reopening and stuff. What are your expectations of how you're planning to spend your time this summer regarding the pandemic restrictions lessening? Right. So are you feeling good? Are you taking this all in stride and kind of going back to pre-pandemic type of summertime planning? What's going on? Let me hear your thoughts.
I think for me, I'm still about 50-50 as far as the planning stuff goes. I would say just because the Delta variant is coming out and all that stuff, or not coming out, it is out. And, you're seeing more and more reports of like people that are like catching in, whatever. So, I mean, yeah, we're still in a pandemic. It's still happening. But as things are starting to open up, it's kind of funny because you go to these things, and I say things as in just like normal trips to the grocery store, outings, I don't know, baseball games, football games, soccer games, whatever it might be. And it's almost like people act like the pandemic never happened. So it's kind of weird in that regard. So they just, it's like, oh, the pandemic never really happened. So being out in public with all these people, it's a little different. Obviously, still some people are going to take it a little bit more serious than others. I think a lot of people who are just I mean, a lot of people stopped caring after a while, but you see these people that are like partying it up like pre-pandemic, nothing's wrong, or the pandemic or the virus never existed in the first place. So, so interesting to see what the summer looks like, really. I know a lot of people have been vaccinated at this point or got the shot at this point. So obviously it adds that layer of protection, but it's not going to make you invincible from the, virus and whatnot. So, as far as like planning stuff goes, I think I'm going to play it by ear, depending on what it is. I think I've been pretty open as far as the things that I've gone to so far, like sporting events and, barbecues or whatever, knowing that everyone in that group is like, has vaccination and all that stuff or have gotten their shots, but, still got to use a little precaution there. Sporting events, obviously a little bit different just because it's open to everybody at this point. You don't necessarily need to show the proof that you have the shot and everything. So it's a little sketchy. I know some people still wear masks and stuff, so it's fine. I wear mine about 50% of the time, depending where I'm at. If I'm outside, I usually don't wear it. But if I'm like in close quarters or if I'm going to a store like Walmart or something like that, I definitely throw the mask on just because I don't trust people in grocery stores still. But everything else, I'm kind of like, depending on what it is, social distancing and whatnot, I'll usually have my mask off and take it easy. So yeah, I think with things coming up in the late summer, early fall, weddings and all of that stuff, just kind of prepping for that and still doing things that I did last summer, camping and going to certain parks and all that stuff because I'm still technically pretty distant from other people, but I'm still enjoying the outdoors and whatnot. So that's nice. So still trying to do all that stuff, but yeah, I don't know. We'll see how everything else goes.
Right. I mean, for me, I'm kind of the same way with you. I mean, it's like I'm taking it in stride. Honestly, I'm taking it day by day. I don't really know what to think of the Delta variant. I know not to put it down. I'm like I said, we're not experts. I'm just speaking from experience. It's just like I'm not putting down the validity of it. It's not even that. It's just for us, it's like we've been down for so long. A year and a half is a long time. Being in the pandemic, being in lockdowns, having these these saturated news of like what is just making us anxious and kind of having a little fear, right? And so it's like, how do I sort this out? And so I'm with you. Kind of like last year though, different from you, Tyler. Similar to last year, I'm more of like limiting plans, right? It's like, all right, I am fully vaxxed finally, as of like 3 months or something ago, a little later than most of my friends and family, but still, fully vaxxed now. And I'm just kind of going with the flow. Like I said, for the first time, I remember now again, there's a grocery store near my house and I walked in there, just like kind of like maybe a few hours before it closed. And so it was pretty empty. And first time I walked in there and I was kind of struggling to put my mask on. Cause I had it like in my pocket and I was just running in and I noticed like other patrons in there were like, maskless. And I was like, F it, keep my mask off. It's a weird feeling, but it's kind of like going with the flow. I'm assuming that's how everyone's feeling comfortable. But other places, like if I was going to like somewhere smaller quarters, yeah, I'd probably have my mask on or prep on that. But yeah, kind of keeping the same thing. Our plans kind of just kind of going with the flow, whatever is happening. So, this kind of, I'm already kind of talking, and Tyler, you already kind of mentioned it already, talking about the last question. And, but that's why we're trying to make this episode short and sweet. And hopefully there's a part 2 when we get more news about it. But it's like, what can you do, right? With the pandemic, it's, airplanes are opening up the middle aisle or the middle seat again. So that means they're packing the planes again. People are like going out to bars. I saw like the clubs are open up again. That was, so for me, like I said, I'm rarely on social media, but I'm starting to see these glimpses, like Tyler was mentioning, of like people going to all these outings again as if the pandemic never happened. So it's kind of a strange sight to see. I personally don't have feelings towards it either or. For me, I'm just continuing to take it day by day, step at a time. And just follow whatever recommended orders to stay safe. I'll still keep my mask on in big public places, so et cetera, et cetera. Zavan, how about you, man? How's your you got big summertime plans? Anything different than last year's summer or what's going on? What's your thoughts of this upcoming summer for you?
For this upcoming summer, kind of on the same boat as Tyler, just not sure. I'm really not sure, honestly. As excited as I am, for our state to be reopened, and especially after like a year and a half, man, like it's just taxing. But away from that stuff, it's been nice to see people out and about again, like nothing ever happened, just enjoying life and not having to wear the masks and doing their own thing with their friends and family members and whatnot. I mean, this past week, and I was able to hang out, with Tyler, and the rest of our buddies over at Fort Steilacoom Park, and it was just so surreal. Like, we can't take that stuff for granted because those moments, they go by so quickly. It's like a blip on the radar, right? And hung out with family the day after. It was great. Went with mom to her friend's house, and her friends are great. Just this energetic, funny couple who loves to talk, and I just loved hearing their wisdom. This past weekend was like the most normal I felt in the past year and a half, honestly. Helped take my mind off a lot of things. It was great, as one of my favorite quotes goes, when we realize how little we mean to the universe, we realize how important we are to each other. So And I feel for the folks who also suffered the past year and a half. Not to get too sappy, but this is real shit. Being in lockdown in a year and a half, you know how many things people have missed out on, and all the stuff they had to go through. Not being with loved ones who are sick and passed away. They couldn't have a funeral, couldn't visit them in hospitals. Folks who couldn't have weddings or had to have weddings with no one there. Essentially, a year and a half, man. So much can happen in a year and a half, and no one really had the opportunity to do anything unless they did it behind, like, you know, I guess you could say the government, and then government enforcement's back or whatever, which, you know, props to them. I think life is so much more meaningful than abiding by what people on TV tell you to do, and to stay in your homes and distant from people, because technology is a great thing, right? We have the opportunity to connect with our friends and family overseas and through long distances, almost instantaneously, or pretty much instantaneously, through our phones, laptops, cameras, whatever. That's great, but from what I've learned the past year, that is nowhere close to interacting in person. That is nowhere close to building a relationship in person. And it's great for 2% of the amount of times you interact with people, but I think to be human is to actually experience human stimuli around you, even if you're not, talking with everyone. I'm a huge introvert myself, but it's nice just to be at a gathering, or just having folks around and hearing the conversations and seeing the camaraderie, and actually experiencing that, witnessing that in person rather than behind a screen. And yeah, it's definitely meaningful to see people do their thing again in person. I feel for those who have suffered this past year and a half. Wish them all the best, but we got to move forward. And this Delta variant crap, honestly, I think the pendulum just swung so hard to reopening that people just want normalcy again. If we were to go back into a lockdown, it's going to be hell for those trying to enforce Delta variant restrictions, because everyone just wants their freedom back, man. And I would even say for those who are very pro lockdown and very who always parroted what they heard off the TV and in the media, I guarantee you those folks wanted their freedom back too. Guarantee you, deep down inside, they wanted to be out of the house. And I don't blame them, because it's in human nature to be free. It's in human nature to have these opportunities of engagement with one another. So yeah, that's just my take on it.
Nice, man. Thank you for that. That brings up a more holistic picture of kind of everyone overall, of kind of capture what we went through in the past year and a half. And so I always appreciate your insight on that, Zavon. And so kind of tying things up now, and kind of wrapping this episode up, making it short and sweet. You already kind of touched on the Delta variant, and whatnot. Do you have any final words on the topic? Whether it's a note of optimism for our listeners, or just kind of final say on what summer is going to look like with this lurking news of the Delta variant?
Personally, with it, I think it's also been one of those things. I think once the announcement happened that places were opening up, mass restrictions were being pulled mostly, and it was more optional, that's when I think the World Health Organization was like, by the way, the Delta variant's in the US now, might want to just consider the masks or whatever. So it's one of those things. I think it's, people like this one had said have been they've been hoping and just thriving, like just waiting for that freedom, essentially, and really want to have that sense of freedom and go out and do whatever they want, not having to have, restrictions and being held back and whatnot. So this is kind of a big thing. So, you're going to see a lot of people, doing whatever they want to do, going back out like it was pre-pandemic, which, I think is fine for the most part. I like I said, I don't know what's going to come of it, but, we don't know how big of a threat the Delta variant is. It's, from what I've read, it hits people harder than the original strand. But, I don't know everything about it. Obviously, I've just been reading about it and kind of understanding what it is, and just, educating myself, which is, what the issue was, I think, with, the pandemic anyways, is educating yourself, vaccinations, thinking that you're invincible, pretty much educating yourself on that as well, because you're not. So I think that's the big thing. We just don't know. The variant hasn't been around as long as, obviously, the whole year and a half or whatever, 18 months we're in right now. I guess whatever that is, year and a quarter, whatever. No, year and a half. Yeah. God, it's been so long. But yeah, so we don't know what it looks like quite yet. We'll find out, I guess through the summer, if there's any, spikes of cases and all of that stuff that, pop up and whatnot. We'll see that. Just because obviously we had the 4th of July weekend, things just got open back up here. So, obviously we'll see reports of certain things that, people may or may not have contracted the virus and all of that stuff. So, I don't know what the summer looks like. I imagine it would be, fairly normal-ish for the most part. But I think the true test will obviously come when flu season comes again, and see how bad people catch the flu or whatever it might be. I don't know if that means more people will get the flu shot, more people will get, the vaccination. Obviously, Pfizer already mentioned that they have a 6-month booster on their shot, just as an update to the original 2-shot process. So, and that's supposed to account for different variants that come out and everything. So we'll see. I don't know. Obviously, none of us know what the future holds, but I would imagine that things will mostly be normal-ish. I don't think you won't see a huge spike in the summer necessarily, or that's my guess at least. Who knows? But we'll see. I guess we'll see how that goes. Just depends, I guess. I'm thinking also from a standpoint of the things that I like to do. I don't necessarily go to super crowded places unless it's like a sporting event, which I've been to a couple of those. But, like you said, like, it's kind of funny because, it's like, oh, sporting events are back. I'm like, oh, yeah, cool. I've been to a few. They're not bad. People are, for a while, it was just like the section I was in it was only people that have had the shots. And I was like, okay, I feel mostly safe because at least all of these people have taken the extra step to protect themselves a little bit. So, I mean, if it comes to us at that point, like, well, shit kind of thing. But, with the announcement of like you said, the clubs and all the bars opening back up and people just like being in a packed, like mosh pit type of environment. Like for me, that's like, that's gross. I don't know if I can do that kind of thing. So it's kind of funny. Like, obviously, yeah, like there's probably, way more people at an outdoor stadium for a soccer match or whatever, a baseball game. But then I'm like, clubs and bars, and I'm like, ooh, I don't know about that, man. So we'll see.
Thanks for the final thoughts on that. Zavon, what's your final thoughts?
Final thoughts regarding the Delta variant or whatever.
Delta variant and just summertime plans. Anything you want to leave, whether it's a note of optimism or just kind of kind of personally what you feel is what to expect for the future.
Um, uh, Gee, I would just tell folks, just live your life, man. Because anything can happen in the future. And not just like another COVID variant, uh, strain, whatever, flu season and stuff. Kind of weird how flu cases were just like literally like so minuscule during COVID, but I digress.
Right.
But just live your life because you never know what's going to happen. And if you choose to stay at home, stay at home. You choose to go out. It's living life is all about taking risks, right? There's no absolutes. There's no absolute safety and security, right? When I commute to work, I'm on the freeway. I could get into a car crash and and whatnot. But you got to live your life because time's always moving forward with or without you. And I just think, personally, in my opinion, another lockdown. If we have another lockdown in the future, whenever that may be, I don't know, another COVID pandemic in 2024, whatever. It's going to tax people's health, man. It's one of those things that I think the lockdowns themselves and the restrictions like killed and I would say not just kill, but like also like negatively impact the health of millions of people more than like the COVID cases did. I know that's very bold of me to say, but based on my research and just what I've read and what I believe, it shows, man. And I know a lot of people like myself hide behind like masks, and it's very easy to do to cover up. I know I sound very negative, but I'm just trying to be real here. In terms of just living your life, because you only have one shot in life, and if some stupid agency like the government tells you can't live it, screw them. So just live your life and try to take the joy of every interaction and relationship you build with people, and every little thing you do. Life is way too short.
Thanks, man. Yeah, like I said, we're all no experts. We're all no experts, and we are just speaking from our own personal experience, and we all have been in this pandemic all together, and so it's one of those things we like to end, no matter how we're feeling about it. We always like to end like, we got to continue to support one another and continue to just be out there and stay strong and just do what we got to do to survive, right? And so to wrap things up, we still don't know what to expect. Still, we have, whether we still have, whether we're optimistic or pessimistic about the summer and the future, we're all still feeling like we're cautiously emerging from the hole we've still been in. And so it's one of those things where let's see what happens. We're still in the middle of it. Summer is just starting. Shoot, here in the Pacific Northwest, we don't even know when wildfire season is going to start again. It all hasn't even, fully materialized yet. And so it's one of those things. Let's continue to stay strong with each other and move on. So that is it for today. We are wrapping it up. As always, we challenge our listeners. What do you think about today's episode, today's topic? Start that mental exercise. Think it over, marinate over yourself, check in with yourself, see how you're feeling, check in with your friends and your family, see how they are feeling overall. Most importantly, like we always say, always keep the dialogue going. That is how we continue to learn and grow with each other. For us, we are not perfect, but we're going to continue to stay at it, continue to improve every week. So again, we appreciate the listen. We appreciate the feedback. This is Our Stories, Your Legacy. And we are clocking off, and we'll see y'all next week. Good night.
All right.